Go live.
Okay.
We're live.
Oh no! Can you hear me any better? Is it all good?
Yes.
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's perfect.
But we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm having to wear my work headset then. We're all good.
Did you publish in the Discord?
No. I was too busy trying to sort out everything for my laptop because it was just not working. I did post on my Twitter though.
Hi, buddy.
But hello.
Yeah, I think I shared your thing. Oh yeah, I've got it.
I don't have it. Mine was a library ebook. So
Just hold up your hand and we'll pretend it's there. That's it. That's the thumbnail right there.
I swear to you, it was ebook. Hi, Lottie. How are you? Good to see you here.
Bonnie's here.
Okay, so for whoever doesn't really know us that well, maybe we want to say who we are.
Oh yeah.
So Jem,
That might be a good idea.
Hello. I feel like I'm in a job interview. This is weird. I'm Gemma from Bookish Gems. I read Interview with the Vampire and I have thoughts.
Ashley.
So hi, I'm Ashley. I'm Ashley's Media Addiction. I smashed my phone the other day. My new phone doesn't want to work, so we're having really bad quality because I'm using my laptop for once. I am sorry, but it's as good as I can do. But yeah, I read Interview with the Vampire. I have stuff I want to discuss, but I am excited for book 2.
So hi everyone, I'm Anna. This is my channel, so if someone is not subscribed to any of us, you can check. Actually, I added in the description their links too. My socials are also in the description, and I do have sides. I took screenshots. I read the Interview with the Vampire as an ebook, library book. So I took screenshots of certain quotes, and I took notes on other issues that were not as explicitly stated as in text. But I have a lot of things I want to discuss.
I said to Anna as soon as I got on here, I was supposed to make notes. I did not make notes. Are we surprised? No. So hopefully I remember what the hell I was going to say.
I'm trying to look for the screenshots, actually.
Is this a monkey?
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's a monkey with no arms. I don't know why it has no arms, but it has no arms. It does the best judgment face though if you stare at it like that.
Oh, he might be shown quite a bit.
We have a new member, Mr. Monkey.
He's here.
Oh god.
And we've also got Stry. I don't know how well you can see him, but he is there.
I cannot
You can see his ear, I think.
Yeah, his ear. Yeah.
That's all we need to see of him, just his ear. That's fine.
Okay. I don't know.
Lottie also has thoughts. I know Lottie has thoughts.
Okay. Let's go for general first, right? In general, what we thought of the book.
I thought, yeah, shall we do a rating of it first? I feel like that's a good way to start, and then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then go into general. I feel like that sounds like kind of a good way to kind of judge what everyone's kind of thoughts was.
Shall we try to give the rating at the same time? See how different it is? Okay.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. 4.
Well, actually, I couldn't figure out how to do 3.5 like that. Maybe.
Yeah,
So
probably.
3.54.
Mine was a solid 3. So.
Yeah.
It was so funny because I was putting it through core pile and it kept coming out as like 4, and I was like, no. And I put it down as like 3.5. I was like, okay, 3.5.
I like that. No, you're not being 4 stars. You're not.
Sorry, no, it's not 4 for me.
Okay. So guys, what rating did you give the book?
What, Lottie and Bonnie?
Yeah.
I think Bonnie gave it a 4. I think Lottie, I'm not sure, but it might be less than a 3. Oh no, no.
Right,
Three
3 from
compile.
Compile.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yay! So we're varied here, but nothing is too low or too high. We're in the
Yeah.
middle range.
Yeah.
Okay,
There
so
were
general
times
size.
though where I was like, this might be less than a 3. I really struggled.
I
I
thought there was
struggled.
something in general in the book that I do like because I have no issues with that, but I understand why people currently would struggle, and is
Yeah.
that it's not a quick book in which there are a lot of things happening all the time. It's just a book to more like to chew, if it makes sense, to
Yeah.
enjoy each page and the writing style, and to get let's say it's more atmosphere in your head than anything else.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And actually it was 4 stars to me because atmosphere is my go-to. So I'm not character or plot driven. I'm atmosphere driven. So
Yeah.
that gives me everything.
That makes sense then. Yeah.
See, I gave it 3 because I'm more plot driven. So until basically part 2, it was all that atmosphere, and so I
Mhm.
struggled. But when I got to part 2, I was fine. For the rest of the
Yeah.
book, I was fine. It was just that first, which is essentially half of the first book, because it's up to like 147 or something, which is the first part. So that's about half of it. So I think 3 is a good rating considering for the first half I didn't like it, and the second half I did. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you put Bonnie's comment on the screen, Anna? Click on her
I'm
comment.
sorry, I completely
That's okay. It's we can't do it.
I was
Yeah.
oblivious to that.
I I would agree with that, to be fair, Lottie. Yeah. I ended up listening to it. I reckon if I had to read the book with my own eyes, it would have been a 3 star. Yeah, that's a really good point because I ended up listening to it on audiobook pretty much exclusively. And by the end of it, I was actually listening at like 3.25 speed, which I never do. Like I listen to my audiobooks fast, but still, like that was
A lot.
fast. And I was kind of like following it slightly with the book, but not necessarily. But it was just because if I had read it, it took me 3 days to read it. And I think if I had been trying to read it physically, it would have taken me a really, really long time because I'm not sure how I connected with the writing style very much. So like it was easier for me to listen to it than it was for me to read it with my eyes, if that makes sense. So I
Yeah, it
think if
does.
I had tried to read it, it would have been a lower rating as well with my eyes.
I read it on ebook, which is harder than physical for me,
Yeah.
and I was quite happy with the writing style. It's just I don't need a lot of things happening. You give me atmosphere, I'm in, and I was actually imagining the film. Like I remembered the film, and I was
Yeah.
seeing everything in my head. It was great because all that darkness I think is perfect, perfectly giving you that dark environment. And I really love that these are real vampires. I had to say it. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not a fan. It's okay if you are, but I'm not a fan at all of Twilight because I don't see vampires in there.
Ashley.
I do not see personally. I do not see vampires in there. I think vampires are cruel. Vampires
Yeah.
are emotionless, as in empathy wise. You know, I think vampires are dark,
Yeah.
gothic, and I don't get that from Twilight at all myself.
I think it's because Twilight wasn't meant to be vampires. It was meant to be fairies initially, but they thought that wouldn't sell, so they made them vampires.
Oh,
And when you
Uh,
think fairies, that makes so much sense overall.
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it was meant to be fairies initially, but it turned into vampires. So I
Yeah,
completely get that. But I like my dark vampires, so
but to
Yeah.
me,
yeah.
Fae are also dark.
Yeah, but it was if it was fairies rather than fae, some of
Yeah,
the fairies,
yeah,
yeah, it'd
yeah,
be a bit different. But
yeah.
it's funny what you say about like seeing the film, because I actually messaged Ashley and I was like, so many of the scenes I can see the scene in the movie, and it's like it was such a good adaptation because
Yeah.
it felt. I haven't seen the film for a really long time. I wanted to rewatch it before the live show, but that didn't happen.
Why don't
But
we do it after the live show? I want
we
to rewatch
should.
it too. Let's do a,
I
like a
really want to
stream.
rewatch it because
Yeah.
I remember absolutely loving that film, and I was vividly remembering the scenes as I was reading it. So the adaptation was really good, um, but I don't know what it was about the book. I think a lot of it was the writing style. I know it's called Interview with the Vampire, but it didn't really feel like an interview per se. It more felt like it was just being reported at me, if that makes sense. So that I was
I
kind of wanting a bit more involvement from the other guy. And even when he kind of like popped up, it was mainly just to, it wasn't even really to like further the conversation. And I just would have liked a little bit more of interaction between the two of them, I think.
So I do think the guy who is doing the interview, like that we're hearing from, I think he's probably what made me more excited for reading book 2, because the way it
Yeah.
ended was like he's going to now find Lestat, and that's made me like, oh, but I really want to know what's happening with Lestat now. So
Yeah.
I think he was crucial, but at the same time, I do get completely what you're saying, Gemma, because I was kind of like, oh, I thought this was more of an interview, and I didn't get that. But the end part with him made me really, really excited to see what's going to happen in the next book. And
Yeah.
because it won't be from Louis' depressing point of view, because he's he's a
love
depressing
Louis.
vampire.
I love Louis.
I love Louis. Don't get me wrong, I love Louis, but he is very depressing. Like,
Yeah.
he's not the happiest of vampires. But even then, like, the other vampires seemed a lot happier than him. He was just not a happy vampire in the slightest.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
basically he kept on having the idea that I didn't ask for that. I was forced, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
and I've been lied to, which I totally got. Like I'm lied to, and it's hard for me to get that out of my head.
So I think it'll be a different writing style in the second one, because we'll hear it more from Lestat. So I'm not sure how the writing style is going to compare. So I'm
I
kind
feel
of looking
like
forward to it,
that
but I'm
would
kind of
be a
scared.
kind of perspective to be from, because I read something. I don't know how much it's going to be, but it said that some of the vampire, the stat or whatever it's called, the second book, is kind of goes over some of the stuff from interview, but from the stat's perspective, and then you're kind of left to the decision on who is being accurate with the like recounting the situation, which I think will be really, really interesting, and is another thing why I'm actually like, well, actually, I really am looking forward to picking it up. And I think that Lestat will be more expressive, is maybe not the right word, but like I just feel like there's going to be a bit more about the way that he's going to tell the story, whereas with Louis, I totally get that, you know, he didn't ask for it and all of that, but it was just kind of him saying, this happened, and then this happened, and then I went on to this, and I just wanted a little bit more. Do you know
But
what I mean? Like, I can't really think
yeah,
of the word, but I just want a bit more from it, and I think we might get that from Lestat's perspective, which will be interesting.
yeah, I cannot trust Lestat now
Oh
that I
no,
finished this book.
Oh, I love
Like,
Lestat.
I love him.
He's
I wouldn't trust
not
him if I was like a
reliable
parent.
information for sure. I cannot. Lestat is this opposite of me, that anything is good as long as you're having fun, and anything's fine, and doing whatever is fine, and doing whatever to others is fine. And I just cringe at that.
Yeah,
Oh no, see, I really like him. I'm like, he would be my kind of vampire. Like, I would be the hem of vampires. Like, I know I would. Like, I would love to have.
about. Yeah,
I'm like, I would be Lestat, but I would want to
Yeah.
love someone like Louis. So I'm kind of like in the middle, kind of. But I think Lestat's going to be a lot more fun to read from, and I think because in the book we see so much change from Lestat, I think it'll be really interesting to kind of understand what's actually changing with him as well. because it just seemed so much in a way that he's going from this big, rich kind of lifestyle and being like, I don't care about anything. But he still keeps his dad around, and I want to understand more about why he is doing that. And then going to the point where near the end of the book you see him so weak and petrified and everything. And I want to understand how he became like that over that time. And I think because we're also now going to see him, like, not nowadays, but like in like the 70s, 80s sort of era, I think because it won't have the historical aspect, because I really struggle with historical fiction anyway, I think I'll probably fly through it a lot faster. Also, there's chapters, so I will fly through that so much easier.
Now, that's the thing. I love historical fiction. So that's where, of course, you give me historical fiction and you give me atmosphere. If you give me atmosphere, I'm fine. Like, you have me. Like, my favorite books are the Shadow of the Wind, The Night Circus, Atmosphere.
Yeah, see, I loved Night Circus. But yeah, I'm not really sure what Lottie just said about Empire of the Vampire. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard that even though it's kind of like, I guess, also a report of what happened, the main character is quite sarcastic, and maybe I just found Louis a bit dry. So then it was a bit too dry for me. Maybe, do you know what I mean? Like, that's probably not what he comes across as other people, but sometimes I was just a bit like, yeah, like he's not like the storyteller I was after.
Yeah, but I love Louis because of that. I'm like the one that tends to be innocent, like, let's say, naive from what people are trying to do. The one that is shocked at how people are able to just lie to you bluntly and be that way. So I did connect to him so nicely that it's now it's like, I don't like Lestat, and I'm not going to like Lestat. Actually, there's this what's his name? The one at the end. I suddenly forgot.
Armand?
The liar, the bigger liar, Armand. So
I love
Armand. I love and hate Armand. I love him because I think he's brilliant. Like, brilliant, the most intelligent vampire of all. But I hate him because he's taking advantage of other people's emotions and just being totally cold with that.
He can walk away without a second's thought.
But I love that at the same time. I don't know if it makes sense to
That's how he's become 4,000 years old.
See, I think that's what I think. His character already has me so wanting to read more, because I know the 6th book is a vampire Armand, and I'm like, I just want to know everything about him now. So I'm going to be impatiently waiting for June. Being like, I want to know his perspective. I want to know more about him so badly.
Yeah, Armand is definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
But here, not a historical fiction reader, not a big one at least, and then liking the historical setting. Because this is what I think was the best part of the book, that is the whole atmosphere. Like, historically, it's putting the images in your head so clearly, you can see. I think the film was made, actually, because the writing is so filmical. I don't know how to call it, like so cinematic. Yeah, there you go. So cinematic that that's what got me there, because I love cinema as well. So I think that's what drove me the most.
See, I think because I don't picture anything in my head when I read, I think that's what kind of made me struggle a bit more with it. Yeah. Whereas if I was one of these people who could picture things, I think I'd find it so easy. But I'm so happy that I kind of had the film references in my head, so I could kind of think back on that a little bit, kind of figure out where I kind of was visually and stuff, because at times I was kind of struggling, like, I don't know what's happening. And then I would see a bit and I was like, okay, I'm this part of the film. Okay, I kind of know what's happening. I kind of know where I am. So I'm hoping the other books will be a bit easier for me to kind of get into, especially if it's not going to have that
Yeah.
giant historical atmospheric bit at the very beginning, because I really struggled with the first half.
Yeah, I think the first book is more like that just because it's also getting you into the whole world and
Yeah.
like the whole setting itself. Setting will be
Yeah.
probably similar to in the stats case, so it will not need to be as historical in all of them. Although probably Lestat, because he was created before, has more to tell about other eras, but
Yeah.
I don't think it needs so much detail on that regard.
Yeah.
No. I
Also, I
think
don't
And
feel
yeah,
like if I don't feel like if Lestat was saying it, he would go into all of like how things were looking. I think he'd just be like,
yeah,
this
no,
happened, you know? Like, it
yeah,
doesn't seem kind of that
Yeah, he,
person who would focus on the atmosphere. He'd be like, well,
yeah.
this happened, this is how I saw it, this is it.
I
Nothing
feel
about
like
all
his
what's going
dad would
on.
be very focused on his own um, feelings about it, rather than
his
like
own self.
it'll
He's
be
just
it'll be a much more self-centered
yeah,
story coming from the
yeah,
start,
yeah.
which will be interesting. But for interview, I think my favorite part of interview was Claudia.
I
Just
love Claudia.
that character and everything that
I
it kind
hate
of like
Claudia.
looked at. You hate
She's
her.
she's so manipulative. I cannot take it.
She's
I mean, I
manipulative,
hate Claudia
aggressive. She's a
as in that,
baby.
but she's too manipulative. It's too much.
But do you know why I think that works though? Because she is a total amalgamation of Louis and Lestat. So she's got so much of like Louis's compassion and personality, but then she's got so much of Lestat wanting to get his own
I don't
way
see
and doing whatever
compassion
it
in
could
her.
to get his own way, that she can then play on, she can manipulate people because she has those elements of both of them. So I think actually, like as a character, she represents almost like the perfect crossover of those
Yeah,
two characters.
yeah. She's really, really well made. I do like the
Yeah.
way she was made. I just don't like that level of manipulation. But I totally. I mean, I see how people would love her
Yeah.
because she's amazingly well made. I think she's the character that is best made. She and Armand are definitely the most interesting characters.
So
Yeah.
I do think without her, the book would have been a lot more boring, because you needed that dynamic that she gave to the book. Whereas if we didn't get that, I feel like I probably would have really struggled more than I did, because I would have been like, okay, not more of just Louis and Lestat. And also, it
Yeah.
kind of just pushed the story forward, because she was like, I'm done with Lestat. Let's go. And then it's because of her that they kind of went on like the adventure. We saw the brainless sort of vampires, and I really want to
Yeah.
see more about them, because I don't understand why they're not so awake as the other vampires seem to be, even the ones in Paris and stuff. I really do want to hope. I really hope that gets touched on,
Yeah.
because that's something I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah, I think
I
one
think
of
the
the things.
story definitely picked up when Claudia came on the scene, and I think that if she hadn't have done, Louis never would have left. Never.
Yeah.
He would have just stayed
Yeah,
with that forever,
yeah,
and there wouldn't really have been a story then, because there's only so much you can read of a guy who hates being a vampire but won't leave
yeah.
and find out more for himself. Like he was never going to do it on his own, and the only reason that he did leave is because he wanted to stay with Claudia because he loved her like his own child. So then he went off with her. So if she wasn't such a strong like manipulative character, he would have just stayed in New Orleans with Lestat forever. He'd probably still be there now.
Yeah, I don't think it was because her manipulation. I think it was because she was determined, and that's something I did like about her. Like she was
Yeah.
this. I want this. How do I do it? Like I'm not thinking, oh, can I do it? No, I want that. How do I do it?
Because you think how many times Louis was like, I'm going to leave, and then didn't. And then she was like, I'm going to leave. And she did it. And she took Louis with her. She like made it so that he didn't really have a choice. And I think he needed that, because otherwise
Yeah,
it just never would have happened. So I really liked her. I thought she was I'm not saying like I like her like, oh yeah, I really identify with this character. I really would be friends with her. But like from a story perspective, I thought she was a fantastic addition, because she really kind
yeah,
of got the ball rolling and got it going. Because like Ashley said earlier, the fact that there was like no chapters, I was struggling because I was like, where do I stop? Where do I put it down? And I was listening to audiobooks, and the audiobook chapters finished mid-page, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I felt really like I wasn't enjoying that. So when she kind of came on the scene, I was like, okay, this is getting it going a bit, I guess, because I was like really disorientated. So it was
I
a
like
bit
how
weird.
I like how she did that. Like how she managed to make you feel they were uh, parts without there being parts. Like you
Yeah,
feel uh, a refreshing moment happening at specific points.
yeah, and it needed it. It got a bit stagnant when they were in New Orleans for so long. And I think if they had to keep kind of doing this stuff, because once they kind of left New Orleans, I felt like there was so much happened, like the traveling, and when they got to Paris, and the circus, which I can't remember, but like Armand Circus and all of that, like things really started to pick up, and I got much more invested in the story. But that first section, I was like, oh god, I don't know if I'm going to finish. I don't know.
I was I was the same. I was like halfway through like part one. I was just like, I am bored. And then I was like Claudia, and I was like, oh, Claudia. And then it got to like part two, and it started really speeding up and giving actual more of the story instead of just atmosphere. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like I needed a bit more plot in this for me personally. But yeah, I also had his brother, Louis' brother, how he prophesized and was like, we need to leave New Orleans, we need to leave, we need to go to Paris. Do you think that prophecy was that he kind of saw Lestat and he was like, we need to get away from here before this happens, before our life gets turned upside down? Because he was saying our life's going to be destroyed if we stay here. And then Lestat comes on the scene and it does get destroyed. So I was like, did his brother kind of prophesize Lestat? But they just didn't take him seriously enough because he was like, oh, it's from God. And they just didn't think the same way.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that. But yeah, that's a really good shout, actually. Yeah.
The way I saw it is actually the other way around. I think he saw Lestat, and when he saw Lestat, he realized there were dark forces around, and then he was like, if we don't leave, probably Lestat talked to him, did talk to him, and told him, like, I'm going to kill I'm going to turn your brother into something, you know.
Yeah.
And then he somehow knew because Lestat talked to him, and he thought it was God talking to him, but it was Lestat, the creature itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other women did think at first that Louis was an angel, so that would actually make sense if he'd done the same thing with Louis' brother and done it that way to make him think it was an angel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I hadn't really thought. I kind of forgot about his brother about halfway through, to be honest, which is bad.
I made a note about him. I was like, brother. Straight at the top. I was like, brother.
Yeah, I meant to make notes, but like I say, I'm not really very good at those, so I did not. But I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk about. I think like the main thing that I took away from it was I knew that Anne Rice was like a massive LGBT rights activist. I know that she did a lot of stuff in that, and I knew it was queer coded. I didn't quite realize like how gay it really is. Like until you're in it, you're like, oh, this is gay. Like this is like gay without being like gay.
He's so
like,
gay.
This is gay before it was okay to be gay.
I love that show from 1994. There's this representation making it same as it is normal. Yeah. It's like it was. I really love that from her.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
Like, it was like when they decided to make Claudia, and Lestat was like, you know, this is our family. We're a family. This is our child. We're going to raise it together. And I was like, dude, so gay. Like, I can't believe that. Like, that should be like the main selling point. These vampires are hella gay. Like, why don't people talk about this more?
Probably Louis is something more like bisexual. I don't think he would be. I think it would be more like bisexual. But
definitely Lestat is bisexual.
Yeah.
100%.
I think Lestat is gay.
No, Lestat screams bisexual. The way he is with the women and stuff, I think that he's more bi for that reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Armand is gay though.
Oh, he wanted
100%.
Yeah, 100%. But he wasn't interested in his past lover's child. He didn't want.
Yeah, exactly.
He
I
didn't
thought
want
the same
Claudia.
thing. Yeah, I also thought she was ahead of her time because it was a
Yeah.
time in which, for me, it was normal and fine, but I was a teenager, It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
She
this was
was
written in the
older.
70s.
Yeah, it was
You know what I mean?
74, I want to say. Let's see if I can see the
published
actual date
in
on
the
this.
90s, but
76.
yeah,
Yeah, 76
I mean,
for this one.
yeah,
he did- I think the stat is. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm this gay. Yeah. There's no doubt
yeah,
in my mind
yeah.
that
Yeah.
Armand is gay. No doubt in my mind. But I love the way that she did it because to us it's so obvious. Like we read it and it's so obvious. And I bet there are some people out there that don't kind of like think about this sort of thing or don't look for this kind of representation in books that are reading it and are just like, oh yeah, it's just about some vampires and they had a vampire kid and they were just vampires, and we're like,
Yeah.
they were
And I
gay.
love how she doesn't stop to she doesn't need to stop to reflect on what being gay means or doesn't mean, or what being bi means or doesn't mean. She just makes
No.
it normal.
Yeah,
And that's
I love
perfect.
that.
Yeah,
Because at
exactly.
no point did I think, did I question it? I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is. I
It
just
took
went with
it took me ages to realise it was gay though, because it was just written so normally that I just didn't even think about
Exactly.
it. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh wait, oh okay, like because
Even the
And this
interviewer
comment,
had a moment. Even Louis and the interviewer had a couple of moments where I think it was something like Louis said to him, "Oh, you're wondering if I was as handsome before I was," and the interviewer was like blushing. I was like, "Guys, come on now."
and this comment is
I don't get
perfect.
how anyone could
Interview
read that
is
and
all
not
about
read gay.
relationships. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something I really loved about that. I love when a book gets me into feeling emotions and seeing the relationships between characters. I just love that.
Yeah.
I did have like some questions regarding like the musician, like how Lestat was like, I'm not going to kill him, but you did kind of end up making him turn into a vampire and stuff. But like, what? How did he find him again? Do you think like Lestat when he was in the river did feed off of animals and then go to get him, or do you think that musician was so determined to find Lestat because he was desperate that he searched everywhere and found him that way?
Yeah, it was this
I think
infatuation.
it might be a bit of both. Because I remember in the film, I have a memory of Lestat pulling himself out of the swamp, and I don't know whether I've just created that or whether it's in the actual film. I need to rewatch it. But I have that memory, so I wonder if it might have been like a bit of both. Like he got enough energy to kind of pull himself out, and then the guy was looking for him, and they ran across each other that way. Like I don't know whether he would have gone to the swamp and dug him out himself, but I wonder whether like him kind of pulling himself out a bit and getting himself to a position where he could find him and then help him, I think is probably more like that.
So I did also wonder what happened to him later in the book, because he seemed like he would never leave Lestat, and then you see them in Paris and he's not there, and then we see this character basically at the house, but it looks like Chloe doesn't recognise him at all. So it makes me really wonder what actually did happen to that musician. Do you think he just went, you know what, I'm done with this, I'm off? Or do you think something more sinister happened?
At the house at the end with Lestat?
Yeah, so like we've got the musician when the house was on fire initially with Lestat, and like we don't know whether he actually escaped at the same time as Lestat, because Lestat actually got free. So it does make me wonder if he also got free as well. But then we also
have left without this one, without the musician.
Yeah, which makes me
why.
wonder where he is for the bits later.
I do think he's dead. Something in me says that he's dead. I don't know how, but I don't, because like you say, they did seem to have like a really strong bond, and Lestat at the end is quite broken. So I just feel like he probably wouldn't have got to that stage if the musician was still around. So I kind of feel like either he's dead or he got tired of him constantly waiting for Louis and left, which would also break Lestat a bit more, I think.
There's
But yeah,
something, and yeah, I agree with you now because I remembered when Lestat was so desperate to get Louis back at the very end to make Louis stay, and that is probably why. Because Lestat, there's something that uh, made me even like Lestat even less, and it is he's so needy all the time.
I know.
But but
He's
Lestat was
so
all
needy.
Lestat also like, can you come with me back here? I promise you can go free afterwards, but there is something we really, really need to talk about. And then we get to the house, and then he's like, so what did you want to talk to me about? And he's like, oh, actually, it doesn't matter. And it really makes me wonder what that thing is, because if he was so desperate to the point where now, a few months later, he's like, you know what, like, it's not going to be worth it if you're just going to leave me again. So I really want to know what he was actually
Yeah.
going to say to Louis.
Yeah. Yeah. He was the one that he was saying he was going to turn to replace Claudia when Claudia started to rebel against him. So yeah, I had forgotten that he actually pops up again later. To be honest, I forgot he was at the fire. Um, so yeah, I can understand what you've forgotten. I'm sorry.
I think he is quite a forgettable character, but like because I had noted him down, that's probably why I do remember
Yeah.
him so clearly. But it did really make me wonder. Also, who is that vampire at the end? Like, who is he at Lestat's
Oh,
house?
the
Who
young
is that
vampire.
guy?
Yeah. Where did he
Yeah,
come
who
from?
is he?
Who is he?
I
Like
know.
I think that like what you said, like the stats quite needy. He can't be on his own. He can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why
Mm-hmm.
he kept his dad around because he couldn't be on his own.
Exactly.
He
Uh
turned
huh.
Louis so that he would have a replacement when his dad died. He turned Claudia so that Louis wouldn't leave him. And then afterwards, when he kind of realized that Claudia was maybe turning against him, he found someone else, the musician. And then when he got out of the swamp, I think what Bonnie says here, perhaps he was trying to save him from Armand or from the others. Because I don't think Armand ever actually wanted to hurt Louis. I don't think he gave a shit about Claudia. He didn't care what happened to her. But Louis,
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
would quite willingly have run off with Louis.
Oh, well, yeah, and
Totally.
done a lot of more things. Yeah.
What was the other one called? Santiago or something? The
Santiago.
Santiago,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, the mimic. I think it might have been trying to get him away from that, but he he knew that Louis was out there, and maybe he didn't want to like try and form another bond. But he couldn't be on his own, so he's trying to find him. And then when Louis kind of rejected him, what did he do then? Because he obviously turned someone because he's got this young vampire with him. But how did he kind of get to that point? Because he's somehow got back to New Orleans. He's gone somewhere that Louis could find him. If Louis ever comes home, he's going to be able to find him. So he's still really pining over Louis. So I don't think he ever actually replaced him. So he probably just picked some rando. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found him very, very creepy.
Yeah.
When we first see him as the shadow, and he's like, "But
He's a
you're mimicking
stalker.
me exactly," to the point where he thought it was still him, and I was like, "I want to know how he looks. If he thinks he looks the exact same as Louis," and
Yeah.
like looked at him as like, "You look exactly like me. It's just a mirror," and I'm like, "Oh,
I
okay,"
actually watched
but
a clip of that bit from the film, and I thought it was Christoph Waltz for a second, but it's not. I looked it up and I was like, no, it's not. But in the way that he's like made up in the film, I was like, is that Christoph Waltz? Because that would have been awesome. Because I love that dude, but it was not. It was some other guy, so that was disappointing.
I have a clear image of the way I think Santiago looks.
Yeah.
see,
I
I don't
think he
picture
just,
anything, so I'm like so confused about how he would look.
I think he would be darker than the others, a little bit darker, and had brown eyes and these really deep brown eyes and short
I just
hair.
I can't. Once I've seen the film, I can't really picture them any other way. It's
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
the visual is there already. That's why it annoys me if they cast someone that doesn't look anything like the description, because I'm like, well, now it doesn't matter how you describe him. I'm only ever going to see this guy.
But
It doesn't matter. Like,
Santiago's a stalker and he's quite possessive.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I actually
yeah,
really liked him.
He was
I,
interesting character.
yeah, he was interesting.
I think he definitely knew that
Agreed.
Armand was willing to leave them for Louis. I think if it had come down to it, and the choice was to stay with the circus or to go off with Louis, if Louis didn't want to stay, I think Armand would have done it, because I don't think he genuinely needed any of those people.
Well, he said himself that he didn't care about them. He was there because he needed the numbers for security, essentially. Because you don't get to be 400 years old to be without some sort of security there.
4,000.
Yeah, there's no way he would have got to that age. Yeah, he nothing he does is uncalculated, which is I really like him. And also, every time he's mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, Antonio Banderas.
I know Antonio Banderas. I hate him. I am Spanish, you know. I hate Banderas. I hate him. And he's also from the south of Spain. I don't like him at all. You know, I like that. It's Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt.
No, don't hate Antonio.
Like, no, I don't. He was not as a person, of course, but the way he looks is like, nah, for me. Nah.
I was like, you're killing me, Anna.
No. He's a good person, actually.
This be an awkward 13 months. Just Gemma, like, no.
But no, he's a good actor and everything. But I see his face and I'm like, get out of the way.
Do you know what I think it is though? The first time I ever saw Antonio Banderas was when he played Shay in the musical Evita with Madonna, the film. Mm-hmm. And I know that Madonna's a whole different thing, but him, yes, thank you. This was great.
No, I'm more of a Brad Pitt. Yeah, I was. When this book was released, I found out about the book because of the film. And when the film was released, is that I read the book, and I knew about the film because of Brad Pitt. Like, I knew everything he did. I've watched everything he did from the very beginning, short stories, whatever he's done. I used to find the most difficult to find tapes. I mean, it was like...
See, I don't like... The thing is, I really don't like Brad Pitt as an actor at all, but him as Louis is very, very well done. He suits Louis so much.
He really does.
I think he's a really good actor. Well. He's become better every time. Like in Meet Joe Black, for example, he's amazing. He's even better in Legends of the Fall. The Legends of the Fall. Really love him there. Oh, I love that film.
I remember there being a film that I watched and I thought it was one of his best performances. It was like a comedy performance. He was in No, what are you talking about? I do not accept this. I'm sorry. I do not accept at all.
I loved also Tom Cruise as Lestat. Personally, I could see that being right.
So which Lestat do you prefer? Because I know you've seen Queen of the Damned as well. Which
I haven't. Don't say anything.
I mean, that's hard because I love Tom Cruise as Lestat.
Yeah.
But Queen of the Damned.
What a movie!
That's one hot film. Like, that's one steamy film. I cannot yes.
Oh, Fight Club. Yes. And 12 Monkeys.
So good in Fight Club.
12 Monkeys. Also great.
He's very good. Burn After Reading was that film where he had like the comedy performance. It was so good. Tom Cruise, yeah.
See, the thing is that like Queen of the Damned is so hot though. Like Lestat's hot, and you've got the Queen who's hot, and just the whole Rockstar thing's hot, and I'm just like, this is my jam, and I can't wait for book 3 to do this live show because I'm going to be fangirling.
It says on Vampire Lestat that the rock stuff is going to come into play then. So I'm like, yes, thank you.
Well, apparently Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned got mixed together for making Queen of the Damned film. So I'm like, I'm gonna love this so much. I feel like
I
I'm
want,
gonna get so much more invested.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
wanted
god,
to.
it's
There are
so
a couple
good.
of quotes that made me really get attached to Armand that I wanted to read because this is Armand telling Louis things, and that I agree with that thinking. It's okay if somebody doesn't. I'm not, like saying it's wrong to think differently, but I really, really love this, and it criticizes the necessity to label everything as good or evil. Like
Yeah,
he's implying there's a lot in between, and there are things that don't have to be good or bad. They just are.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
one of them goes like, "How could we be the children of Satan?" He asks. "Do you believe that Satan makes this world around you?"
yeah.
No,
That was
I
a
believe
good
that God
one.
made it. If anyone made it, but he also must have made Satan, and I want to know if we are his children. Exactly, and consequently, if you believe God made Satan, you must realize that all Satan's power comes from God, and that Satan is simply God's child, and that we are God's children also. So there are no children of Satan, really.
Yeah,
I
that was a
mean, there's
good.
no, to me, that summarizes in things don't have to be, like we are all good, bad, and a huge range of grays in between black and white, and we are
Yeah,
everything all together. We're
I
just
think
not
that also
all good or all
reiterates Anne
evil.
Rice's. Yeah, and I think that also
Exactly.
reiterates Anne Rice's like distaste for labels
Yeah.
that seems to come across in the book. Like she doesn't want to label anyone as good, bad, gay, straight. Like just people are people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Vampires, whatever. Vampires are vampires.
Uh-huh.
You
I
know.
really did like. I really did like that. The fact that we're like, people are people. They're not good. They're not bad. They've got bits of everything in them, and I think the fact that she done that so well to the point where it just seems like a normal person to us. It doesn't seem as like they're a bad person. It doesn't seem like they're a good person. They're just a person. I thought was just really well done, and I really can't wait to see what else is in this series as a result of that.
See
Yeah.
this comment? Please still be my favorite, of course.
So,
About it.
So that has me thinking, Gemma, because you asked which one do I prefer Lestat wise, but we never asked you which one do you see in your head when you're reading it, and which one do you prefer?
It's weird because in this I saw Tom Cruise, but I don't know what it's going to be like in the next one because obviously this film I very can picture it very well because it was basically almost word for word the movie, like in the scenes, like so much of it was just the movie, so I can see it very vividly. With the next two books being mashed into one movie, that will be where it will become interesting because there'll be some parts of it which will be really vivid in my head as the Queen of the Damned movie, and there'll be some parts which don't have like a visual association with them already, I guess. So then it will be interesting to see which way my brain goes. I don't actually have a favorite, I don't think, because I genuinely don't see those films as connected in any way.
I, for the longest time, didn't even realise Lestat was in Queen of the Damned. Because he just does not seem like the same person. Like,
He's
you
like the
watch
main
Queen of the
character.
Damned. No, but like in Queen of the Damned, he is such a different character than we see him in Interview with the Vampire. I just didn't associate the two as
Yeah,
the same person until afterwards I realised I was like, oh, wait, they're the same person? Like, how? I don't
exactly.
understand how they're the same
It's
person.
so
I
different. I
the,
actually think that Tom Cruise is much more menacing
Yeah.
in a way in the movie.
but there was a thing that happened to me, and is that uh, I saw the film, as I said, in many sections of the book, but I could never imagine Tom Cruise in it. When
Really?
Oh,
reading the book, in my head, Lestat looks a lot like. Have you seen Christian Bale in a film? I think it's called The Machinist. Um, that
Yeah,
he went really really thin to make
yeah.
that film, and he looks scary. And
yeah.
I imagine Lestat exactly like Christian Bale. but with a bit of makeup.
Oh.
Interesting.
I mean, that's still hot because that's Christian Bale, and Christian Bale's stunning.
Yeah,
So, I
but
mean,
Christian Bale being
yeah. But without him being
Don't
super
look
skinny.
into
See,
I'm
I
more
grew up.
of a Benedict Cumberbatch girl.
See, I grew up watching Christian Bale. So, like, for the longest time, I was just like, everything he's in, I must watch. Like, so,
It's
yeah.
a shame that none of the characters remind me of Tom Hardy, because then I could just put him in my head for everything.
You know, you never know. Future characters, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, we just need to find a character. If anybody comes across a character that has like a remote resemblance to Tom Hardy, please let me know.
So why? What should I do?
I think it was pulling the cheeks in again. I think.
The one that-
Oh God, I am really looking forward.
Did you take the pic? Did you take the picture?
Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, can you read this one without being slightly thirsty? Because I mean, this book screams it to an extent. Like, it's fine.
God knows what's in store for us next.
but but speaking of it, what do you think is going to kind of happen in the next books? Like, obviously we've seen Queen of the Damned, but like, what do we think is actually going to continue from the series? Really?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you can
no.
watch the discussion. We are not finished though.
No.
Hey, glad to have you here anyway. And glad it's going to be recorded.
Yeah.
You will be able to watch it back, and I'll have it linked to my playlist as well for like book reviews, because I tend to do it with live shows. I think it's a really nice way. Just kind of have it on everyone's channel for people kind of watching, if it's got like it kind of pinned on someone's channel, even if it's like in a playlist. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've set up a playlist for Vampire Long, so I'll probably save it in there as well. So,
but yeah,
what do I think is going to happen next? Well, it's a very good question. I've got it here. I don't know why I was looking through it like it's going to tell me, but I just saw something interesting at the front.
okay, share with us then, Gemma. I don't know why you're hiding it from us. Share, share, Gemma.
Apparently, this book starts off in 1984, which I wasn't expecting.
Yes,
The next
that's
book
what
starts off
I
in the
knew.
80s.
I knew it was very much more modern day that we were getting it, which is why I think I'll probably be able to get along with it a lot better, because it won't be back in like the 1900s, 1800s, whenever the hell Louis was born. What year was he born?
I want to say it was like,
18,
well, who,
No.
who knows? There's no chapters for
17
us to look at.
something at the end of the 1800s, probably.
Yeah.
Is it 17?
Could be. I've no
I want to
idea.
say that he was there before. I don't know.
1700s.
1700s. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Lottie. Thank God you're here. Keep us on
I knew it
track,
was.
guys.
I knew it was far back. Like, it won't be that historical fiction way for me. So I feel like I'll be able to get into it a lot
I
easier.
do think it will jump back and forth between
Yeah.
times, though, because, like I said earlier, I heard that it's going to go over some of the events of Interview, but from a stats perspective. So I am
It
actually
could-
really looking forward to getting that, especially that time in between where he flees Paris and Louis finds him again. So that will be interesting to see. Hopefully we'll get some answers about what happened. And also,
I think
really
that'll-
nice he goes from the like broken mess that Louis leaves behind to, you know,
Yeah.
what happens next. So
I think
really looking forward to that.
I think that'll be where the interviewer comes in. He'll be wanting to know more about Lestat's point of view after all of this. And I think that's when we're going to see Lestat's point of view for it, because he's going to go off to go get Lestat. So if he's able to see Lestat, find out kind of what happened from his perspective, I think that's where the backwards will kind of come into it. Before he gets made into a vampire, because I full on expect him to become a vampire.
I'm trying to remember, does something not happen at the end of the movie? Which might.
No idea.
I honestly, the thing I'm really intrigued about is how Lestat managed to survive first time. Like what happened to him, how he could move, where he went, who helped, who didn't. I mean, all that part between the first and the second appearance.
I think I'm a lot interested in who made Lestat. Why they just made Lestat and then decided to leave like that. That's what I'm really, really interested in. Because it seems like he kind of got turned and then left, like straight away. And Lestat was like, no, you don't want to meet the other kinds of vampires. So I'm really interested in seeing if we get the vampire who is behind him and understanding why Lestat is kind of
Yeah,
scared of other vampires in a strange sense of way like that. I
he
think that'd
definitely
be
wants to
really
be
interesting to see.
didn't he? I remember the guy that made him being in Queen of the Damned, but I don't remember much about his scenes. It's been a while since I've seen it. I only really remember the scene on the beach with the violist or violinist
I don't remember
because
that
I
I
scene.
love
don't
that
know
bit of
what.
music. So I generally watch that clip quite a lot just to listen to that little tiny bit of music.
I
Just listen to that.
Whenever I get in my head, I think of the Queen dancing with the blood all down
Yeah.
her face.
Oh,
That
don't
that's the
tell
scene that
me
goes to my head.
that. Don't.
I'm not like if you look at even like the cover of the film, it's pretty much that to be honest.
Ah,
It's like
okay.
it's like the most famous scene. Like if you've seen any
Okay.
part of that film, you'll have
Yeah,
seen that bit.
she's awesome in that film. What a shame, because that she was played by Aaliyah, and I think it was not long after that film she died in that plane crash,
Yeah.
Oh,
which was really really sad because she was like a singer and that was like her first big major movie role, and then yeah, and she did such a good job
She
because
was
what like it's not when you see like musicians go and do like a movie role, it's not normally something like that because it was really a strong character and it was like it wasn't like what you would normally associate a musician kind of doing their first movie to be. It was quite a bit darker. um she did such a good job with it. What a shame, man. What a loss.
I really can't wait for the Queen to come into it in the third book. I think the Queen will be really interesting, and I'm interested in seeing how it changes from the films going forward as well. But I love the fact that we only got Queen of the Damned for the films. We've got 1, 2, and 3 kind of covered, but after that, I'm completely blind of what's going to happen. And
Yeah,
I'm really, really excited for that aspect as well. But I kind of like the fact in my head, I kind of have a starting base of kind of where I am in it. And then the more it goes on, I'll be able to properly get into these books more. I'll probably get so much more invested and want to know so much more by that point as well. So it's a kind of nice
I'm
having.
basically
Yeah.
I would say that if the next two are as hard to get through as this one, I don't know how I'll
Yeah.
feel about continuing it because the thing is, it might be something that I would continue, but whether it will be one that I can do back to back will be interesting. Like we might have to reassess at 3, but if the next two are like totally different, which I get the feeling they will be,
Yeah.
like I think they're going to be a lot more fast paced. I feel like this is the introduction to the world and then it's going to really kick off. And I
mhm.
think if that keeps up, then I'll probably be absolutely fine. But because I don't read much historical fiction, I always struggle with it. This one I was like, oh god, I really hope that the next ones are going to be a bit more fast paced because it was very slow, especially at the start. Like I struggled, and like I say, I listened to that audiobook at 3.25. I don't know who I think I am, but somehow I managed to follow it. But it did worry me a bit that I was like, kept speeding it up, and I was like, come on, like, is this the narrator or is it the book? Like, I'm really like getting concerned. But I have high hopes for book 2, just from the back, and also from it being from the stat. I just was looking to try and find something about the movie, and it
I
said that it described Louis as a Debbie Downer, and I was like, yeah,
I think it could have been intentional to make
yeah,
Louis be boring.
yeah,
So I did also
yeah.
see I also did see other people who have read this book, so you don't need book 1 to go into it. Like most people basically skip book 1 because they don't like it, and they'll start from book 2 and they'll love it. So
Yeah.
I can understand that as well because Louis' perspective is quite sad. But at the same point, if we're going to get from Lestat and it's going to be more modern and everything as well, then hopefully it'll be fine. That first 100 pages is
Okay.
long every day. I didn't do the audio and I was just struggling initially. And I got to part 2 and that's when I was
It
fine.
did pass.
I've already got the audio for Lestat just in case. Like, I'm covered. But the first thing I did as soon as I got like audio, I was like, yeah, let's get Lestat quick just in case.
But boring and everything. See how much it got us to talk about it. I mean, I think it that makes it worth it, because what's not worth it to me is a book that I finish and I'm like, so what do I do with it?
I feel like that's going to be, if we do this all the way through, I think that's going to be the very last book because it's 200 pages. And I'm like, what am I going to chat about? We're going to chat about the series overall at that point because there's going to be nothing else to say with
I think
200
there will be
pages.
a lot to talk about in the last book, because the last book I feel is going to unleash stuff that would leave us. Oh, that's the end. Oh.
Yeah, I would hope
think
so
that
anyway.
although, like I say, like you don't have to read this one to enjoy the rest of the series. I think it's really good to have read it.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, if people didn't want to read it and they wanted to know what happens in it so that they could continue the series with this knowledge, just watch the film, because it's almost exactly the same. Like, it's probably, now having read the book, it's probably like the best film adaptation I've ever seen. Like, it didn't really skip anything. Everything was exactly as it's described.
I mean,
it was really, really well done.
We never actually got the brainless vampires in the movie though. As far as I remember, we did get that.
Yeah, I don't
and then
them either.
the end, it kind of looked more like Lestat had turned him in the movie at the very end, whereas it's kind of not the same. But overall, the majority of this book is the exact same, but we do have other added bits in this as well, especially with Armand and Louis and stuff at the end. Like, none of that's touched on. So I feel like if you do want to see just a bit more insight, then definitely go for this one. But if you're kind of just wanting just a brief outline of it to kind of carry on, definitely go with the movie.
Yeah, because those bits that are missed, I'm not sure how impactful they're going to be later on in the book. But I also feel like there wasn't so much of it in this book that if it's touched on later, you would be like, whoa, hang on, what are we talking about? Like, this, I don't know what this is. Like, because it's not going to be a huge part of it, I think. And I think if it does get mentioned, it will probably get re-explained because it's only been touched on in book 1, if that makes sense. So I think, like, if you were just wanting to kind of get an idea of the story so you could read the rest of the series, the film has done a really good job.
Yeah, it does. What do you think about the discussions, again with Armand, because Armand, of the existence of God? He's a philosopher. I see him as the philosopher.
Yeah,
The existence of God. That discussion that it reads, I don't know if God exists. I said, and for all I do know, he doesn't exist. And then nothing matters. Nothing achieves evil. That's not true, because if God doesn't exist, we are the creatures of highest consciousness in the universe. We alone understand the passage of time and the value of every minute of human life. And what constitutes evil, real evil, is the taking of a single human life. Whether a man would have died tomorrow or the day after or eventually, it doesn't matter. Because if God does not exist, this life, every second of it, is all we have. I loved that reflection of making the most of every minute of that you're alive.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it really is like the best way to live, isn't it?
Exactly.
The way that he's describing.
The whole thing is about the existence of God, but I think behind that, what we get is live every minute as if you didn't have any. I mean, even if you believe there's an afterlife, that wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be possible. You wouldn't do the same things. It's just so. Just make the most of every minute, and think of higher consciousness instead of thinking of an old man in there. Think of a higher consciousness in the universe. I love that concept. And I think for that moment, she's also way ahead of her time.
Yeah. I thought that was really, really good, because obviously she's writing it in the 1970s, but when Armand is having this conversation, it's obviously quite a bit further back, and God was very important to like everyday life back then, probably more so than it is in most of society now. Maybe not all society, but in most society. So like I would say that I'm an agnostic. So I don't believe in God, but I think that there is maybe something. I just don't really think that anyone's ever been able to give me enough evidence to tell me who or what that is. So, and I think I recognize quite a lot of that in what Armand is saying, because he's saying like, stop thinking about God as this overall being, this overseeing master, and all of this. Not like living your life to what this one person has said. Live a good life, do it well, to your own kind of moral compass. Live each day
Exactly.
as it comes, and then if there is something afterwards, as long as you haven't been totally shit, you'll probably
See,
be okay.
I'm an
And
atheist slash agnostic because again,
yeah,
I cannot prove it doesn't, but I have the atheist tendencies, like to believe there's not that.
yeah,
But again, that's personal and non-transferable. But I also think morals are not linked to beliefs.
yeah,
I think morals are linked to you wanting to do good for others or not. You wanted to respect others. What is good? Well, what doesn't go against what the other person wants or for themselves, or what doesn't damage the other person's
yeah,
life in any way. That's good. And that's all. I think that's my moral compass. Like
yeah,
respecting other people's lives and being as much as I can.
yeah,
As long as you
See,
do
exactly.
that, you're fine.
Yeah,
s- see, I'm more pagan slash agnostic personally. It's just the way I am. It's quite a weird way to be pagan
Okay.
and agnostic, but that's fine.
I am
Um,
also, I understand perfectly because I come from Vikings. So yeah, I
yeah.
totally get this point.
So you don't have just one god for paganism. You have different gods, and I think that makes a lot more sense to me.
yeah,
I don't think personally. I don't think there's one god that controls everything. I think that just kind of doesn't work for me. I don't understand how that could happen. How they can just have one god who's like, you know what, we're going to give the good stuff, we're going to give the bad stuff. Whereas if you had different gods for different things, that makes a lot more sense to me, and that's kind of
yeah,
like that battle. But I really do like the fact that Armand is kind of just like, you know what, who cares? I've been alive long enough. I've not seen any kind of thing with this. You get good and you get bad. This is what you're getting. You can decide if you think that's God. That's up to you. But
yeah,
there's nothing that I've seen to make me think this is God. This is me just being like, I am. This is what I believe in. I've been alive for so long. I've not seen anything that's anything like me. I feel like we are the highest beings that we can be. Just try and live life the way that you can and to the
yeah,
best of your ability, because
Exactly.
people struggle. And when he said about people were just struggling with it so much that they'd basically kill themselves because it just got far too much for them, I I kind of understood that so much, because after living, say, 1,000 years or something, you're going to get to that point where you're like, you know what, I can't keep doing this over and over and over again. So I fully just understood his point of view for that.
yeah. Yeah, I also liked the fact that, like what Anna was saying earlier about with that quote where he's like, not all people are black and white. Like, there's all different kind of like moral shades in
Yeah.
between.
Hmm.
I feel like Armand is very kind of central. Like he sees life that way, and I think, funnily enough, Lestat and Louis represent the two extremes almost,
Yeah.
because Louis is very like, I don't want to do this. This wasn't my choice. I only kill because I have to. Like, God's going to punish me, and it's like not my fault. And I mean, the dude can't survive if he doesn't drink blood. And so if he like that, if you follow Amon's logic of God created Satan, so if Satan created vampires, they're still like God's children. So then you have to believe that God allowed that to happen. So then how does Louis kind of like max it all up? Whereas Lestat, he's just having a good time and he finds pleasure in it almost, and he just enjoys it. And I think it's quite interesting because with the three of those characters, you've got like morally good. Well, like in D&D where you have like the alignments, you've got like lawful
Yeah.
good, lawful, neutral, and then I don't know, that is kind of some kind of chaotic shit. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got those like three different extremes, which I quite enjoy, and then I don't really know where Claudia goes with that chaotic everything. I guess she's just all chaos, isn't she?
Yeah,
Which I
yeah. I think that's where she keeps her youth, in that chaos. Because when you're young, you're chaotic. The younger you are, the more chaotic you are. So I think
yeah
that's a way of them always showing the child that she seems to be.
Though
yeah
I think on a completely different note from that, you can kind of see where Stephanie Meyer kind of got all her kind of bits with, because you see Louis and he is so in touch with his humanity, and he doesn't want to do anything like this. And then you've got the ones that can kind of like mimic, and then you've got the ones that can kind of like Armando's able to like kind of speak into people's heads a little bit and kind of give them that kind of thoughts and stuff. And I really did like that, because it was kind of like you can see where Stephanie Meyer got that idea for doing all these things with like the powers, but also with like the veganism vampires sort of thing,
yeah
with the fact where it's like, well, Louis told, well, he can eat off of animals if he wants to. It doesn't sustain him as much, but he can. And then you see that like transformed into like Twilight, which is like a big thing, and they basically focused on that side of things. And I like the fact she was so influential that even nowadays her ideas are still coming to light, but like without kind of people kind of noticing as much, but
yeah
they're definitely still there and
Oh
still being
yeah.
used to this day.
yeah. I think reading this one, it's clear the impact that Anne had on kind of the vampire lore in general. So
Yeah, I mean, vampires are technically vegan because they don't eat meat; they just drink
no,
blood.
Very true.
They don't eat meat. What?
if they just like stopped before death, then they would be fine. So they didn't kill them.
Where are they eating the meat? Where?
So I
They're
think
biting it.
I do think it'll be interesting as well, kind of seeing more of the people who want to be essentially food banks for the vampires, because we saw that in the Seductive Vampire. And we saw that they did have humans who was like, yeah, you can eat on me, but don't kill me. And I think that'll
Yeah.
be kind of interesting to see how that development came into play. Because obviously at one point they were like, no, you can't have vampires anywhere. Nope, stake, you're on fire, beheaded, dead. And then you've got these years later when they're like, now they're like, yeah, I want to be a food bank. And I'm like, I really want to, I really hope they touch on the fact of that big giant change in dynamic, because that is one hell of a change for humanity.
Yeah.
To be like, no, to be like, why not? Like,
Yeah,
it's a very big change.
I volunteer
kind of,
to get my blood sucked out of me. Many people do it in different ways, right?
I think Gemma's
Oh,
down.
Look, Robbie.
Oh no.
but I want to watch it now purely based on this comment alone.
See?
It made our
that.
day.
Oh dear. I did kind of like that juxtaposition though between the village that they found with the mindless vampire that was attacking them, and how the people reacted there to how the fact that when you got to Paris, they're quite clearly vampires, and everyone's like, it's just a show. Do you know what I mean? Like, if that had happened in that other village, they would have seen through that straight away. And I just kind of liked that they went from that one extreme to the complete other. And I think that kind of was also quite disorientating for Louis, because he's like, you know, gone from one to the other, and he's not really sure what other vampires are. So he's like, oh my god, are all the other vampires in the world these mindless things? And then the next vampires he meets is this whole kind of like community basically of vampires.
I think Anne Rice is doing something really interesting there. And from a reader of historical fiction, I saw it this way. I don't know if it doesn't make sense to you at all, but I'll just place how I see it, and is that uh, Romania is where vampires are uh, supposed to have
Yeah.
started, and basically it's showing how different cultures will see the same phenomenon as a completely different thing, like from a totally different perspective. And the
Yeah.
phenomenon is not positive or negative; is just neutral. Is the phenomenon is what it is. But then uh, each culture, each society will see the same phenomenon from a completely different perspective, and it's the people from that culture that give it uh, quality,
Yeah.
a certain quality. So Romania, like they're tired of seeing vampires, like it comes from old times, like they're probably more religious. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
So that's why they're more close-minded, and everything and anything that is different is evil, and is and we have to destroy it. And
Yeah.
vampires are hungry, and because they are too old, they're already like that's probably showing that's where we're all getting.
Yeah.
So
And
you
then
mentioning
France
Romania
is
makes me. I was
sorry.
gonna say you mentioning Romania makes me really hope that they actually add in Vlad the Impaler into this series at some point.
Yeah. That would be cool.
You can
It would
go
be
to
cool if you just
Dracula's
popped out.
castle in
I am.
Romania. You can go
Sorry.
to Dracula's castle, the Count,
Yeah.
Count Dracula.
Yeah, I hope he ends up in this book at some point
It would be
because
nice.
I feel like he should be just because he is so monumental. Vlad the Impaler in some way should be in this. I hope.
Yeah. It would be
And
cool if
then
he was just like mentioned in passing.
yeah, yeah. And then
Like, oh,
France
my
is
mate fan.
shown And then France is shown as it was seen in that time, like all um, crazy and free, and like the that life um, where prostitution was uh, normal before it became a thing of Satan in the world. And it's like where everyone we're crazy and free, and all these things is, I think, is showing cultures so accurately, and the way cultures were seen by the world at that time. I think I
Yeah.
love that part.
Yeah. It definitely had some really, really good elements. Um, it was just a bit hard to get through this one, but I am, like I say, I'm positive for book two. I am thinking that book two is going to be a bit more my speed. I hope.
Yeah,
So
I think that in being in the 80s, I think it'll just definitely be a lot faster for me because it won't be that well. I don't know. People are starting to class the 90s as historical, and I'm like, that's not historical. So I know, it's not nice, is it? I'm like, I'm not an ancient being. What's going on? But yeah, but like 80s is modern. It's still modern. So
I
like,
hope so, because
I'll be
I'm
nice.
convinced,
I'm having a
darling.
break.
So it'll be nice to
Oh,
have. It'll be nice to actually have the more future aspect of it, the more now of it, and I think I'll enjoy that a lot more because it's not going to have the historical aspects to it.
you've literally broken my heart. I hope you know that.
You're
I
I
never
know,
said it was.
I don't
I know
feel
you're
I don't
not
feel
saying it, but still, damn.
Yeah,
There
just
was there was a
closer to me than to you, actually.
there was a
Because you're the
there was a book
baby.
that there was a book that came out, and I swear on the back it said historical fiction, and it was set in the 90s, and I was like, excuse you.
Really? Really?
I was like, excuse you, what do you mean the 90s is classed as historical fiction? That is not historical fiction.
That there is a generation of people on TikTok that refer to the 1990s as the late 1900s. I will fight them all. Do not ever refer to me as being born in the late 1900s.
What?
What? These young whippersnappers.
Oh no.
That sounds so horrific. I mean, I know, like, technically it's accurate, But isn't that horrific to say that you were born
I
in
said that.
the 1900s?
I feel like they should just never say that ever because I do not like that at all.
No, I refuse to accept this, Lottie. I'm sorry, but 1990 was only like yesterday.
Like historical is one thing. Historical is one thing because, of course, there were things happening, right, that are not happening at the moment. Historical is one thing, and ancient is a completely. Historical is not a synonym of ancient. History is just something major that happened. And as we were born in the 80s, we are historical because we are a major thing that happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I do understand to an extent because we got so much more electronical and everything in the 2000s, and everything did change to a very major way electronically in the last like 20 years or so. But I still do not like that 90s is historical. I'm not a fan of that. Let's just never have that as a thing.
And event could be
95.
Oh, we're all older than Google.
Yay!
So, I guess, oh god. Google was
Are you also an 80s girl?
God, this is terrible news.
We're older than Google. Oh
this
no.
is off topic now. Oh, we're
Yeah,
definitely older than Facebook. Damn. Okay, let's just stop looking at stuff that we're older than. I tell you one thing.
We have the baby here.
When in 1998? What? Wait, hang on, because it was just your birthday, wasn't it? Hang on. So, February. Come on, tell me.
Yay! I'm 1982. I just turned 40. And
January.
I feel fresh,
Yeah.
like a rose, to be honest. Like, I feel quite young.
Yeah, Lottie, I hate to tell you this, but you are also older than Google. You're welcome. Damn it, sure you know. I was hoping to ruin life for the baby.
When was Google created?
September
2000?
1998.
Oh, okay.
Rude.
Ah,
I'm hoping someone.
Google's actually older than I thought it was. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it would have been 2000s, early 2000s.
There are people on TikTok that don't know what the dial-up tone is. Exactly. They never had the worry of can you get on the internet or will somebody be on the phone.
oh.
That's a good. That's such a good thing when your mum and stuff is just kind of like we're just like we ignore the phone at all times. I'm like, yes, we have internet whenever I want it.
You know what though, right? We are like imagine going like linking this to the book because I'm going to find a way to link this conversation to this book. Imagine living through this entire all this change. Like at the start of this book, it's all like horses. Like you got around on horses and you had candles, and then by the end of it it's like the 1980s. Can you imagine?
No, that's only book 2. Remember, there's like 13 books.
Yeah,
It's going to go to modern day. So it's going to be interesting seeing them go from like then to nowadays being like, mobile phone, just text Louis. Louis, are you still there? Louis, can you come over? Like, Louis.
I'm like, Sam, why don't you just text him, man? God. Just text
That's
him
good.
and ask him what it is. That'd be
The
so
group.
wild.
Can you
If you
imagine
think about it.
vampires, a WhatsApp chat,
Vamp gang.
fellow vampires?
But imagine like you become a vampire at a time when it's all like just candles and just the 1700s, and then if it's the 70s, then the Who and Led Zeppelin and Queen would kind of just be like being around. Queen would be around then? I'm sure it
What's
would be.
Happening is my favorite band of all time, by the
Yes,
way.
no. I love Led
And then
Zeppelin.
Queen is like,
how
you
weird,
know,
how wild would that be to go from like the little piano harpsichord thing that Lestat plays?
well, if
To
they're going to drink
watching Jimmy
blood,
Page.
if they're going to drink blood, Woodstock would be, I think, kind of an eating party for them. People on drugs, not knowing where they are, and they could be able to eat how many?
Brings a whole new meaning to a secondhand high.
So I'm not going to lie, I'm very much looking forward to seeing the groupies for Queen of the Damned. Just seeing Lestat's groupies, because he's going to be surrounded by them. And I'm just going to be like, I study music business, so like everything about music is just like everything to me, which is what I study music business. Yeah. So I know like everything music business wise.
I studied music.
Oh. So like yeah, I've got the whole entire like background of like the industry. So it'll be, if it goes very, very badly, I'd very much not like it is, I'm gonna be annoyed because I'll be like, this is not accurate. But I'll be really interested in seeing how it is done. And oh, hi Gemma's child.
Hi. We have a superhero.
Okay. Sorry, he wants to borrow my phone to brush his teeth. He's got a little app on here.
No problem.
Oh,
He's cute.
What do you say? Good boy. You're welcome. He's got a little app on his phone. It's called like a magic timer, and he's got a Spider-Man phone, so it comes up with like a picture, and it does a 2-minute timer, and it clears the screen to reveal a sticker, and he earns a sticker. So we downloaded it yesterday, and he's like obsessed with it. He woke me up at 7:30 this morning.
I'm not.
So he could take the phone and clean his teeth. I was like, it's
I'm not gonna lie. That makes me want to brush my teeth. I want this app just for me at this point. I'm like, yes, I did it.
Or a magic. You don't have to have one of the toothbrushes, because you can just brush your teeth with Mickey Mouse if you want.
That's wonderful. I'm totally gonna get that app. That sounds wonderful.
You see, music technology, we're all in the business.
Ooh. Except from Gemma.
Except from Gemma.
But I do do film and television production.
I was gonna say, didn't you do TV and film though?
That's
so we're still kind of like in the same vein. He's gone.
Aww. Yeah, he was cute. He's really cute.
I think that's the first time I've actually seen your kid before, Gemma.
Yeah, I think so. He, I thought it might happen because it's now 9:30 and his bedtime is normally 8. But I said he could stay up till like 9ish because it's a Saturday. Yeah. And I was like, he hasn't come in for the phone. I bet he's going to come in for the phone because he's going to want the app. So I should have left it with him, really. Never mind.
That's all good. But yeah, I'm so excited to see how this one continues.
Of course it counts. Like, humanity needs music. Humanity needs art. Without art, many more people would have ended their lives because they wouldn't have been able to find a way to express themselves clearly to others without being explicitly verbal.
Yeah.
Which will make this interesting because I think she's going to talk about stuff like that in here because it does say rock superstardom. Also, I just went like that and I saw the words Harley Davidson and I was like, there's going to be motorbikes! So, yeah,
I need to talk more definitely because I think we're both kind of rockers without the kind of.
Yes, I am such a rock chick.
Yay!
Rock all the way. In fact, what does this say? Hang on. Oh God, I can't stand up.
Wait. Oh,
I love that. I very much do love that.
In fact, before we went live, me and Anna were comparing skulls.
Yeah, I have skulls. Here.
I've got one, but it's downstairs, and I can't be bothered to go down there. But mine
Different
is even
flavors.
smaller. It works.
We were just like comparing skulls.
Oh, Lottie was planning to DNF the series, but actually just ordered the next book.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
At least,
You are not left out. Loving music is more than fair enough.
Yes,
Oh,
Lily. Give it another go. I honestly do think this will be more our speed. I really do.
yeah.
Obviously, if it's not, we'll reassess. But I think
You mean
this
by
will be-
book 3? We're going to do one live show each, and then we're going to check
I think
how
the
everyone's
thing
doing, I think.
Sorry, my chair's really squeaky. I think the thing I'm most looking forward to about the next two books is kind of separating them out, because obviously, like you say, the Queen of the Damned film, which I loved and have seen like ridiculous amount of times. I have the soundtrack in my car. It gets played a lot because I refuse to age past 2004, and like, I don't like to listen to music after that time. But it will be really interesting to kind of see the elements that were put together for that one movie and kind of
Yeah.
separate them out. So there's going to be a lot more in the two books, I think, than what we got in that film. So I think this will be good because it will give us more kind of backstory on the stat, which is what I think we're all in agreement we would like.
Yeah.
I want to see how he came to be a vampire and what he was doing when he wasn't with Louis, and also his perspective on it.
Also, I
afterwards-
do.
Watch it.
Also, I do think because it'll be different from the film. So we've all seen the Interview with the Vampire film, so we know what of that is the same, what of that is kind of like different, which isn't that much. Whereas when we come to now, because it's going to be the two books mashed into one, we're not going to have the same, and we're going to find out so much more stuff that we didn't already know from like watching it, which I think will be really interesting.
yeah, this is going to be nice. I love that these 13 books don't seem to me as monotonous whatsoever. I think each book is going to give us something completely different, and that has me really, really excited. Like, it's not like when you read, when either a musician or an author, you read two books and you feel like all the books you read from them are going to be exactly the same product, kind of varied, and then you get like, yeah, but no, not really. So it's boring. I think I think this will be the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be like the same world, but she's going to really mix it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's something
I
about
really
Claudia we
want to
haven't.
like it as well. I really want to like it because I like Anne Rice as a person. Like everything I've ever
Yeah.
read about Anne Rice, I think she's awesome, and I really want to love her work. So I was a little bit bummed that this only came out as like a 3.5, but I still, and maybe I'm just like hopeful and like naive, but I still hope that this is going to be a 5-star.
I have a hope for it being 4-star for me, just because this one was
Yeah.
just a solid 3. So I'm hoping next one will be a 4. I don't know if it'll be a 5, but I think it'll be better, and I think Queen of the Damned might be a 5-star for me, just based on the
That's what I'm
movie. I
thinking,
think
yeah.
that's what I'm going to
Yeah.
end up being a 5-star for.
I'm just like being hopeful. If it comes out as a 4, I think that would be pretty good going. I'd be happy with that. Or a 4.5. But I'm hoping that as we go on, I will enjoy it more. I really want to get to John's book because I love him. I don't want
Is
to give up that before.
Before we kind of, I think we've said everything. Have we said everything? I was going to say, does
There's one thing.
I was just going to ask.
I think we missed, and it's something about Claudia
Oh, okay, yeah.
that I believe we have not mentioned, and I think is key to this book. Love. Okay. This is the thing. The love of Louis for Claudia as a woman, I think also shows other things, because many people would see it as perversion, but it's not because Claudia is a woman. The fact that
Yeah.
she's tiny doesn't make her a child whatsoever. I mean, she's old. The
Yeah.
fact that she looks like a child, or what you would consider a child, doesn't mean. I think that's also discussing people with certain physical issues or conditions. That's a word. And the fact that why should you assume things about others
Yeah.
when you really don't know? I think that's another thing I really liked about that image of Louis being in love with Claudia and not having a conflict with that, because it's all about, like, many people would think, oh, he's pervert, he likes a child. No, she's not a child.
Also, I think
Why?
he only really thought of her as a daughter. I don't think he really saw her as anything sexual. I think the fact that
I think
Claudia
he
then
did,
asked for Madeline, or whatever her name was, and then she
Madeline.
was basically like a mother. I think she still had that very innocent childlike figure to her because she never got that brain developed more than a child. So for her,
Because
she was a child all this time. It's just she wanted to be more than she was and she couldn't get that. So she went, you know what, I want a mother. I want someone who will love me but who will also treat me as someone I actually want to be, not just as a child 24/7, which is which is the only thing you see me as a child. Which is understandable from Louis' perspective. He's been with her since she was 5. Like, he is going to see her as a child, and he will always be like that father figure to her. So I don't think he actually. I know people say it's perverse and things, but I never actually saw the actual sexual connection between them because to me they just never. Maybe from her perspective, she loved Louis, maybe that way, but I don't think Louis ever saw the fact. Never saw past the fact that it was just his child.
Oh yeah. I was just trying to think of where I'd seen a child vampire before, and it's in Skyrim. She's part of the Dark Brotherhood, isn't she? I totally was. Yeah, I was trying to think of who that was, but I do think that Claudia, her mind is definitely older. Like
A lot
she's
older.
definitely she's got a whole hundreds of years of life experience, and she is very aware as her mind gets older and her body doesn't. She's very aware of the things that she's missing out. Like she'll never be able to have sex. She'll never be able to have like a lover or get married or have a child of her own. Like she's very kind of aware of all those things that have been taken from her, because she was turned into a vampire so young. And I think that when she kind of latches on to Madeline, I think she plays, and this comes back to what you were saying about her being quite manipulative, Anna. She plays on the fact that Madeline has lost her child and is looking for, she's a mother without a child, and she's looking for a replacement almost. And she finds it in Claudia, who will then be able to kind of live some of her experience that she's missing through Madeline, and will be able to kind of go and do these things that maybe she wouldn't have been able to do by herself and that Louis maybe doesn't want to do. So like I think that she's definitely much older, and I hadn't made that connection with what you said about like her having been trapped in a body that doesn't match her mind almost. And I guess you could make that as talking about like people that have like been disabled or are like in vegetative states but have like an active mind and can't use their body to like converse and talk and all of that kind of stuff. So I hadn't really made that connection, but as soon as you said it, my mind went there, and I thought that's actually really interesting because she's in a child's body, so she can't go out and have like an in-depth conversation with someone even, because they're always going to treat her like a 5-year-old child.
I think Anne Rice does more than it's obvious she does. So I really, really love that. There's here, but I don't remember the neighbor, by the way. I don't remember the name of the
Yeah,
neighbor.
Babette is the woman that whose brother gets killed in the duel. Well, or
Yeah, it's the neighbour.
the duel, and then
I was looking through. Yeah, it's the neighbour
yeah,
who's
yeah.
who
The
it
one
is.
that he kind of likes, and then
So
she
you didn't.
tries to kill him. Yeah.
So
I thought I'd take
yeah,
a look just in case.
But I don't think it would be a coincidence that there would be a child vampire with a name from Interview with a Vampire. That would be too weird. I think that's definitely a nod to the series myself. I like
So-
that
Definitely.
little Easter egg in
I think so.
Skyrim.
The only thing I was going to ask is, do you think, since a lot of us kind of struggled with this one, do you think we should set up a schedule for like a buddy read for the ones going forward? So either doing like the pages a day or certain chapters a day. Is that something you guys would like to see? Because
Well,
if so,
yeah.
we can kind of set up a buddy read sort of schedule that works for us as well, to kind of keep us kind of all on track. If that's something people would actually like. Obviously, you don't have to stick with it. It's just like a kind of general thing. But do you think that would help people? I think that would help.
I think it would be good to set it up. I don't know how well I'll stick to it because I never really stick to them very
Yeah.
well. So,
No, that's fine.
to set it up, like Lottie said, it would help her. So I think it would be definitely a good idea to set it up.
Yeah.
Maybe on the Discord.
As an
Yeah.
approximate, it's an approximate. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
stick to it, like literally stick to it every day, but you can have an approximate of the speed everyone's having.
Yeah. Because I done that for Uprooted for the Recreate Book Club. Sorry about that. Just put the name down. But yeah, I done it for there as well, so that people could keep track if they did want to do it that way. So I mean, I'm not sticking to it because I've started another book now, and I'm not going to start by Monday, which is when our like group read, buddy read pages are. But if if people think it'll help them, I'll set one up for us, and I'll figure out how much to do a day, sort of thing. I'll maybe ask Gemma because I've not got the book. I'm borrowing it from the library, so I don't know the exact pages and stuff.
Yeah, I can let you know a breakdown, and then if you want to set it up on Discord, that would be because I'm not really sure how it would be set up. If you want to set it up like it is on your one, we'll talk about it on WhatsApp or something. But
Yeah,
I
like
think that
make it not
be a good idea.
separate. We could make it relatively slow, like not for every day, but at certain chapters or sections every certain days. So slow readers don't fall behind, but you can do it quicker if you want. It's just like a general guide,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, because I suppose very quickly when we would want to read it by the next live show, which I'm actually not available the second week of February. I'm at a hen weekend, so we might either want to bring it slightly forward or push it slightly back. We could do it the
Sunday
I'm
before.
Yeah, or we could do it like in the evening. So I guess maybe discuss it on the Discord and see what is better for everyone else. But it might be that we could just push it back a few days and do it like the Tuesday evening, which would be the 15th, which would be more.
I think the Sunday before would be better because I know Ashley has live on Saturday, the week before.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to be live all that weekend. I've got the Recreate live show on the 5th of. No, on the 4th of March. I'm on a 24-hour live readathon on the 5th, and then I would do this live show on the 6th, and that's my weekend sorted. So that would work for me.
Wow. So yeah, probably that week, making it another day. Initially, I should be able to do it on a Tuesday.
Yeah. I was going to say, because it would be a bit harder just for Anna, because Anna's very different time schedule than us.
Yeah. If you have a look, Anna, and see whether Tuesday the 15th at 8 o'clock GMT would work.
I will know a lot closer, though, to the day.
Yeah.
Because it depends on a couple of things that I can try and make sure I don't have anything. But
okay.
Because it's early for me. It will be 8 p.m. your time and 2 p.m. my time.
Oh yeah.
And it's a work day.
I mean, if not, we could just leave it until the weekend after.
But there's a possibility that we can do it.
We'll let you guys know when we figure out our schedules. It's very difficult.
It'll either be the week before or the week after, but I'll definitely sort out the schedule for it, so that we can all get that done, which will be good.
Yeah, should be good. Okay, I think
That's
we've
everything.
discussed everything. I mean, I really loved how much this book gave us to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
how much we had to say about everything, good or bad or regular or whatever thing. Like, there's a lot to talk about, and that to me is a good book. So it was totally
Yeah.
worth it reading it, so we could have this discussion.
Also, we forgot to
I really
mention the
enjoyed it.
next live show will be on Gemma's channel.
Mm,
Which is why we can't do it that weekend because I ain't here to
wait,
host it
here,
for you
here,
guys.
here.
But we'll sort it. It's all good. Oh wait, it's fine.
So don't forget to subscribe to my lovely co-hosts because they're worth it. And
Like L'Oreal.
this channel, if you haven't and you want to, it was really thank you. I'm glad you had fun. I think we're all happy you found this discussion interesting.
I'm glad it
Um,
piqued your interest in picking up book 2 as well. Like I'm because I thought, oh, we've already lost one, but we've pulled her back in.
Yay! We could, if it's okay with you, Ashley, maybe I think it could be good to open like a spoiler section in the Vampalong channel.
You
Um,
can do it if you do like there's a little emoji sort line thing you can do between it and it hides spoilers so if you
the
so that like
two
people
lines,
it's like two lines,
vertical
yeah.
lines. Yeah,
When you put the
but
stuff in the middle because that way it can close it off for people who don't want to see those spoilers come up. But then if you click on it, everyone can kind of see that. So I think that's the best way to do it so people who don't want spoiled don't have that as well.
don't have, yeah. So whoever's reading and feels like I need to get these off my chest
Yeah.
and share at whatever moment. So if you haven't joined
Yeah.
Discord, just check Ashley's channel. She should have her Discord down
Yeah.
in her description boxes. Yeah, exactly. Right before and after the text,
Yeah.
you type in that, and you get. Do you know how you do these on the computer?
Um
I think there's a
I've
numbers thingy, alt,
I think it's next to
whatever.
backslash on this keyboard, but I'm not sure because not all keyboards are the same. But I normally just
um
find it from a old YouTube video and copy and paste.
that'll do it.
So find out
Sorry,
how you do
copy and
apply
paste.
on the on your computer.
Yeah,
There is a
I'll send you a
Vampalong
link, Bonnie.
Discord. Actually, would you be so kind as to add the link to the comment?
I'll see if I can do it. If you give me 1 second, guys, I'm just going to quickly jump on
Yeah, so
YouTube because
everyone has
it
it.
is linked there. Anytime my laptop feels like working for me. If the link
I mean,
doesn't
if
work, do let me know because it could be it's expired, but it will definitely be there. Let's see.
Yeah.
Where's my
if
videos?
anybody's interested, I can set up a buddy read on Storygraph, which you can kind of mind dump at appropriate times, but everyone else in the buddy read won't be able to see it until they also mark that they're at that point in the book. Me and Bonnie use it, have used it before, and it's quite good. So if anybody wants that, let me know, and I'll set it up and invite whoever wants to be in it. It's quite a good place to dump your thoughts without accidentally spoiling anyone.
Oh,
I don't think
absolutely.
YouTube's ever went this low for me in life.
In fact, do that. Okay. Okay.
Are we? Come on, YouTube.
That is Ashley's Discord, and you can get there. And there's a Vampalong channel in there.
Oh, you got it. That's good. I was gonna say this is just not cooperating with me in the slightest.
Do you girls have the star graph?
Yeah.
I
Because
don't
you can
have it,
set-
but I could get it.
You can set a buddy read on the star graph and set when you
Oh.
want to read it by. Yeah, is a new
Yeah.
feature.
Me and Bonnie are using it at the moment. We've used it for one buddy read, and we're using it for one that we're doing this weekend, allegedly. I haven't started yet, Bonnie, don't hurt me. And it's really good because you can basically just mark where you are dump down all your thoughts without worrying that you might spoil someone, because until the other people that you're buddy reading with also update it to that they're at that point, they can't see it. So it's really good for buddy reads for people like me, because I'm always normally like, I don't share my thoughts in case the person's not at the same point, and then by the time they tell me that they're at that point, I forget what I was going to say. So I'm quite like story.
Yeah, the story graph is here's time to make a story graph. Yeah, you can actually export your information from Goodreads, so nothing gets out and you don't have to manually update everything. So you can export the information from Goodreads and import it into the story graph. So that helps. I have both. I wouldn't leave Goodreads because Goodreads to me is much more community centered, and I really like that. And the Star Graph is more centered on right now on challenges and stuff, but it's not as easy on edition times.
I'm using both as well.
So I use both.
Like the stats and stuff that Storygraph give you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll set up a Storygraph buddy read thing as well in that case, and then try and do it that way as well. But I will set up a schedule for this book as well that people can join in with if they do wish to.
Sounds good.
Sounds perfect. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your weekend wherever you are. And yes, Goodreads is more user friendly for me too, but Stargraph's still developing, so I like those. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I'm so glad. My heart is full of discussing with these two beautiful people, and with you, beautiful people too. Cool. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks to you, Lottie, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye.